Welcome to Voracious Podcast. We're back. Hello. How's it going? Got my co-host here, Hershey Schaffner.
Greetings.
We're having a good time. It's a voracious good time.
It's voracious.
Let's talk about today. Why do you think it is that in church today, Christianity, why does it seem like we can fill arenas full of people who just want to seemingly get their time card punched for church, just show up and then not really do much of what the Bible says? Because in my Bible, it says, make disciples. Yeah. That's a big one that I don't really see going on anymore. Cast out demons. You kind of see that on social now, but I don't know.
Like hip and cool now.
Yeah, it's like a cool thing to do, but I don't even know half of the time if it's legit, honestly. Who knows what's real?
Yeah, that's tough.
Raise the dead. Not really seeing that one happen.
No, I've never really seen that one happen personally. Now I know there are people who have seen it happen.
Yeah. What? But how do you know?
Well, you ask the dead guy, I guess. That's kind of the way to go.
Yeah. That's a hard one, I guess. You'd either have to just see it or have some sort of a empirical evidence, like doctor's notes or something.
Yeah. Because the only ones I know of like documented were like Reinhard Bonnke. There was a guy that like was in the basement while he was preaching wherever he was at, and the body, he came back to life, and they knew because they documented him dead, and then he came back. And then Andrew Womack, I think, has had some documented.
Really?
Yeah, people come back from the dead.
So at church back where I come from, we used to have a guest speaker come in. His name was Dean Braxton, and he died clinically dead for 2.5 hours. So that's documented.
That's documented. And
his wife prayed for him a whole bunch, and he came back. And he actually said it was quite depressing.
Coming back.
He said, because when you're in heaven, nothing is dying, and here everything is dying. And he said, actually, it has an odor. It stinks here.
Wow.
Comparatively. He said, but you get used to it. Like, it's one of those things, like when you're at a garbage dump or something for a while, you just kind of
acclimate to it.
Yeah. So
That's
he said he actually got depressed for quite a few months after that happened because it was just terrible. It's just terrible here until he found purpose in it, and he decided to, ask the Lord what he wanted him to do. And he went out, and that's what he does, is travels around and kind of shares his story and then answers questions about people have about heaven, which is cool.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I asked him a question. I asked him what do angels look like? And well, it was kind of a vague answer, but I mean, I think just because there's a lot to explain in that arena, but he said angels have all kind of different shapes and sizes. So it's not like an angel just looks at any particular way.
Yeah.
He said, because all the angels have certain jobs to do. So they're designed to do that job. He said, there's some angels that are just this big.
Little bitty angels.
And he said, there's some that are bigger than a skyscraper. I was like, wow, that's intense.
Well, Revelations kind of says there's some weird looking angels, like with the eyes all over the place. That's kind of, so I don't know.
Fear not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It would take me a minute to get over that fear, because it's like,
I would not be all right.
Lots of eyeballs. And that's cool though. Yeah. I heard a preacher one time say that when Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead, and it said when they talked to Jesus and said Lazarus was gone, that it says Jesus wept, the scripture everybody can memorize. And so he said he thought that Jesus wept because he knew what he was bringing Lazarus back from. Oh, well. So that's kind of an interesting perception there. Now, I don't know if it's biblically correct, so don't take it as theology, but that was pretty interesting concept that I'd never thought about, that, Jesus knew what he was bringing Lazarus back into.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I could see that aspect of it. I don't know if I'd cry over it, because, Jesus also knew what he was getting ready to have to do.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's a freebie.
So why do you think we've strayed so far from what Christianity actually, in my opinion, is supposed to look like, kind of what it says in the Bible? Make disciples for one.
Yeah.
Which I want to get a plug in. I'm thinking I'm going to start a live weekly like discipleship Bible study thing here on Voracious.
Cool.
So if you're interested in that, please comment in this video, because I want to be able to reply to those comments and give details as I get them, because it's kind of an idea right now and I don't know exactly what night of the week I'm thinking to do that and stuff. So as details unfold, if you're interested, please comment, just say, hey, I'm interested in that, and we'll all connect and see what that looks like, because I think that would be kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah. So see, I'm trying to do the thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, and that's what the Bible says, to brag about whatever you're doing, and make others feel like they're failing.
Well, I'm not trying to make anybody feel like they're failing.
Just kidding.
Yeah. But it just seems like we don't really walk the walk as I understand it. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think discipleship is like kind of the unicorn of the church. I mean, Jesus said, go and make disciples. And I think that, I mean, I've been in ministry for 32 years now. Mm-hmm. And, it's been a passion to make disciples. I've done really well at it at times and done really poorly at other times. Discipleship is interesting because it's kind of easier to make a convert.
Yeah.
It's easy to
see, discipleship in my whole life was never preached.
Oh, really?
And I've been to church forever.
Okay.
And I've never heard that a message that alluded to go make disciples. Here's what we're doing. We're working on this. We have a disciple, nothing.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's kind of the norm for the church. It is mostly just like more pastoral, which is fine. It's like, are you struggling in this certain area? No condemnation. Here's how we do better. Pray for them, and then you're dismissed, and everybody feels better.
Yeah, but that doesn't last, because then they come back again, and it's the same issues over and over. And I think that was why Jesus said we should make disciples, because it is a growing process, and we're all growing in this phase of working out our own salvation with fear and trembling, right? Mm-hmm, growing. Mm-hmm. I think like one of my friends, Rick Bennett, was really good about discipleship. He and I were youth pastoring at the same time. Okay. And so we started out in like 91 going to the Navajo reservation. And so he had a larger church, and the kids that wanted to go to the trip, it was kind of a privilege to get to go. They went through a discipleship program. So it was like 12 weeks and pretty extensive. I actually adopted it myself, and it was like you wrote essays on like what you were studying in the Bible. There were certain requirements. And so, it was a real passion of his. And I think that was a good groundwork of like being a disciple means to be a learner. It literally means a learner or a pupil. And it's to become like the teacher, not you or I, but obviously Jesus. But so I think that the thing that kind of got me was, when the youth would do that, man, you would see the transformation, and then it would carry out. We were on the reservation, doing ministry, and you would see these young people, man, just all into it. And so that impacted me of a way. And he and I used to talk all the time about how we can do discipleship better, even when we would go on the reservation with the kids that we were ministering to see them grow in it. But the thing about discipleship that I think becomes I don't know if turn off is the right word or makes it harder is it's a grind. It's not a one and done. It's not a just create. It's
not glamorous.
It's not.
It's actually working and getting down and dirty with people.
Yeah.
Working hand in hand, helping people. Because the point I think of it is that not that you end a relationship with somebody at some point, but at some point, the ones that you're helping and you're learning and growing with need to start doing that with other people.
Yeah, it is exponential growth. It's reciprocal. Yeah.
So also on that point, then if it's not, then you're doing something wrong.
If it's not growing.
If it's not growing.
I think so. I think we have a bad tendency in the Western church or in the modern church to have like a codependency on the pastor, or on the leader of the church,
But to be fair, I feel like far too often that pastors or the teachers or whoever you put in charge of your program,
they create it.
They make it, they want it to be about them, really.
Yeah.
They make it to where you have to come back. And it's like, well, you're not ready yet to go out.
Yeah, no,
like
I think so.
You don't have my stamp of approval. Don't do it.
Right.
And that's not okay.
No.
Like when did Jesus do that?
Yeah. And I mean, it is like a fear-based thing. It's why pastors don't want their church members to visit another church, because they might like it better. And that's what's sad is we do, we've called it like the log jam of ministry. Like you'll have a lot of people and they have gifts and they have abilities and they should be flowing, but they get stifled.
Yeah.
They get stopped because, you might lose the person. And that's, I don't know, it's hard in discipleship. It's hard in discipleship on the flip side when you pour into somebody and then they just abandon, you or what they're called to, or,
I mean, that could be rough.
Yeah. I mean, Paul writes about that too. There are guys that like, I poured into them and now they're enemies of the cross. And so there's that aspect.
That's real. That really happens a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think back of just friends of mine that I've had that, are interested in what I'm doing and why I believe a certain way. And you get into it and then it almost has like a repelling effect for whatever reason. At some point they're like interested in it and then they just leave.
Yeah.
And you don't hear from them again. You're like, what are you doing? And it's like, well, you hear all kinds of bad.
Right. They go a different way.
Yeah.
But I think that, I mean, I do think that pastors out of insecurity, have propagated a codependence. And so
maybe pride too.
Yeah. To me, pride and insecurity they're like boyfriend, girlfriend. They kind of run together pretty good.
But
I think that that has been an impact, and then people get frustrated or whatever because they don't feel like they're growing. But I think that to really do discipleship, the other thing is I don't think it's just a program. Like I said, Rick had some great stuff that implemented, but he would even say it's not about a program.
Right.
It's about a relationship. It's about a journey. You see Jesus with his disciples, like they just ran together all the time.
Yeah.
And, part of it was the teaching, like, you see where he does the parable of the sower and they're all like, oh, we're supposed to become farmers now. And Jesus, like, it's appointed to you to know the secrets of the kingdom. Like, we're going to have a real secret talk here, so you'll get it. So there was that aspect, but then, how much of it was just like watching and walking.
Yeah.
So that when he was no longer there, we see where they were able to carry on because they had relationship. And I think that's where discipleship is. It is a real relationship.
So then, that being said, would you agree that it's probably the church in general's, like when I think of, and I got nothing against like big church, like Gateway.
Yeah.
Robert Morris is a brilliant person.
Sure,
He's a good teacher, but they fill their buildings on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I find with mega churches is that it seems like it's really easy just to hide, just come into your time and leave.
Oh yeah.
Why does that exist? I guess is what I'm trying to figure out. Did we do it to ourselves? we allowed it at some point.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think that part of it is that it's the American way of doing, or the Western way of doing things. Like you make it bigger. So, I mean, Walmart started out as a mom and pop shop, and
I think it got basically honest. I mean, honestly, because it's voracious.
All right, we're going to be honest.
Let's just be honest. I think it's just dollars. I think it's butts in the seats equals more ties, and that's what we cater to.
I think that's part of going back to the control thing, the fear of like, because most pastors are paid based on tithes or number of members, depending on the denomination, how many people are on the roll. I mean, I know churches that like people that have been dead like 30 years are still on the roll because that determines how much
that's
the
crazy
salary is. And it's funny, but it's true.
It's very true. Sad. It's very real.
And so that's why like they don't want those letters of like, we're leaving, because then they have to take you off the roll officially, and that could affect.
See?
So money, I mean, money's a factor in so much of it. But I think it's also like, and I'm not saying Gateway particular, because I don't know Robert Morris. I know some of the other guys there and seem like great dudes, but there's a power thing too.
Right.
Like there's a power. I mean, dude, I've been in rooms with preachers, pastors, and like the first thing they ask you is, so how many are you running? And they just want to compare, like, they want to know, like, so how many, and, my smart aleck answer was, well, we don't really run a lot in church. We kind of walk and, but they want to know that.
They want to know how many you got.
Like, by comparison. So they can know if they're doing better or worse than you. So I think that it is obviously financial.
Yeah.
I think there's that aspect. And I think what's sad is it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like we want the gospel preached and like a platform, like a Gateway they're moving in prisons. They're doing amazing things for the kingdom. But I don't believe that was the original way that the Lord wanted to.
Everything's geared. Well, I won't say everything, but in mass quantity, it seems like everything's geared to make sure that people have converted to Christianity and are going to stay at church.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is a lot of it.
And I'm just like, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's pointless. You will just be a spiritually dead person if you run that road. I mean, honestly, on both ends, I don't care who you are.
Well, and it's kind of crept into like all these ministries where like everybody has a ministry school. And again, I'm not against ministry training.
And it's like, I'm not picking on Gateway.
No. I mean, you can fill in the blank of whatever big church there is. They just happen to be in the DFW.
It gives you
area.
a good visual.
Of
what I'm talking about.
But a lot of these ministry schools, like people move there, they go there, and they never come back to their local church. They never go back because there is a bubble about it too. There's like this, like it's a safe place. It's right. The bigger churches, it's convenient. And I remember like years ago, Willow Creek in Chicago. I feel like we might have talked about it at some point, but
we did it on our first. When you were a guest on our first.
Before I made the co-host seat, work my way in by slipping a few, dollar bills in there.
Or maybe you just said yes.
Oh yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah, because I didn't have any money on me because my church isn't big enough. So
we're plenty big.
Yeah, no, it's actually wonderful. But that was part of it. They interviewed their people, and they had 20,000 members, and 80% of them said that their lives hadn't changed.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with that formula. And it is easy to hide. It's easy. I went to a big church in Orlando. Now I was really involved in the youth and young adult ministry, but it was very easy to sneak in the back door a few minutes into worship, sneak out the back door as an altar call is going on or whatever, and never have any contact with other humans.
Yeah.
Which probably sounds a little appealing to you.
Well, yeah. Well, that was pretty good. That was a good, man, we got into it fast and hard. I like that. Anyway, like, subscribe, get those notifications. Voracious Podcast out.
Later.